following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on the break!
With Nick Eatman, David Hellman, Ambar Garcia, and Derek Eagleton.
Hello, guys. Welcome back to Cowboys Break, presented by SWBC Mortgage Studio. I'm Amber Garcia, joined by Nick Eatman and David Hellman. Derek is not here right now, but he might join us later in the show. We'll see. We never know what Derek's going to do.
You just get to make up the rules if you run the department, I guess. That's fine.
Yeah, he just kind of does whatever he wants.
You get called to meetings upstairs.
Yeah,
you know.
The people that call him into meetings, I guess you can't afford to turn them down.
I think it's probably been where he said, hey, I need you to come up for a meeting. He's like, I have a show at 11:30, and they're like, okay.
And? Yeah.
And then you're like, and then he,
all right.
So, okay.
I'll see y'all next week. Yeah.
Right.
I know. I don't know. Either you're committed to the show or you're not.
Whatever.
It's one of
You tell that to someone named Jones. I dare you.
All right, well, let's get into it today. We heard some news, some updates that are currently happening as far as a signing that's about to happen. I know the Cowboys, as of right now, have agreed to terms with a punter. What was his name?
Brian Anger.
Brian Anger.
We love to joke about how the timing is always bad in our industry, but that was perfect. Like, we were just kind of sitting around waiting to do the show, and it came down and got it written and taken care of, and
got it confirmed.
Yeah, like 30 seconds later.
That's the biggest thing. And I know fans out there that see other stuff, and people can do things really loosely and agree to terms according to sources and stuff like that, and it's a little bit harder for us. So
we get calls from Fifth Avenue in New York if we don't cross all our T's and dot all our I's.
Right.
So
we've got to make sure it's good. So when we get that agreed to terms text message or call, we're happy about that. But speaking of the position, I think that we're talking about a veteran guy here, and I thought Hunter Nicewander did a nice job.
He did a nice job.
He did a nice wonder job last year. Better than we've ever seen, really. I mean, from in the last 10 years. I mean, his average was better than what we've seen out of Chris Jones. But, he didn't do enough where you're like, that's your job.
I literally was sort of tinkering with the depth chart and just sort of thinking about the draft last night. And I was like, Hunter was good last year, but in any given year, how many punters are so good in the NFL that you shouldn't try to have a competition? Like maybe there's one, like Leckler's been that guy for a long time. Probably Johnny Hecker's in that category where you're just like, we're fine. Yeah. But a guy that played 9 games for you, like, absolutely not. Like, bring in some competition. This will be great. And 12 hours later, they did. So
yeah. What I don't know about this, because again, the guy just got he just got agreed to the terms here. But if he's a kickoff guy?
He did do kickoffs in Houston last year.
See, that changes things a little bit from the standpoint of what you want Zuerlein to be doing and how much you want his leg, because this team's going to score and they score points. They kick off a lot. So you want to have that option of him doing that. Also, Holder, just depends. It's just the whole package. And you said he was drafted. There's a joke. He was drafted higher than.
It's not a joke. Like, I mean, no offense to him. That his lasting legacy is that he was taken ahead of Russell Wilson. The Jags drafted a punter over a guy that's one of the best 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the league. So
they had Bortles.
Yeah, no, they were good. They were, Russ was pick 75, and obviously 74 other guys were taken in front of Russ too. But when it's a punter, like,
what was he taken? Brian Anger was taken.
He was pick 70 by the Jacksonville Jaguars, 3rd round.
What school?
California.
Okay.
I remember there was a lot of hype on him coming out. He was a very good player, but Roberto Aguayo, the guy that the FSU guy, one of the best college kickers of all time. Like, I think he missed one kick in 4 years, but you just don't draft specialists.
Where was Texas punter Dixon?
He was a 5th or 6th round pick, which that's fine.
That's kind of weird.
If there's a guy that you love that you like, 6th round is where I start thinking that's a good idea. Maybe 5th if he's amazing, but 3rd round for a punter.
And he with Jacksonville, and he went to Houston, so he
went to Tampa before. Like, he played all 4 years with the Jags, but they didn't re-sign him. So 4 years of a decent punter over Russell Wilson.
So hold on, Cal Berkeley, drafted by Jacksonville, went to Tampa.
Where are we going with
Houston, Dallas. What do you think?
I don't know.
He doesn't like kicking in the cold.
That's fair. Fair enough. Who does?
Who does?
Yeah.
Well, he made his way to Dallas now.
There you go. He's working his way back.
He's over here. He's going to be over here, and healthy competition there at the position. So we'll see what just ends up happening. Sure. Interesting time, though, because this is a time where things usually tend to calm down with free agency, and you start turning your attention around and focusing more on the draft. Do you guys think that the Cowboys will be signing anyone else or at any other position here in the near future before the draft?
I think that you could. I'm trying to think what they did last year. I know you can't compare anything to last year, how crazy it was, but I feel like there are guys out there that you sign. The Cowboys are expected to bring in even a tight end today, and going to take a physical, and if he passes, they could sign him. Jeremy Sprinkle, he's been in the league for a few years, but that's not official move or anything. That's pending a physical. And also, just to clarify, we kind of heard some things too. Keanu O'Neal agreed to terms. They're waiting for him to get his physical. He's waiting to fly here. He's dealing with some medical issues. Nothing major. Nothing they're alarmed about. I think the biggest question fans want to know is what's he going to wear? What jersey? Because he wore 22.
That's a great segue. We just want to get all this uniform madness out of the way. Which
Keanu O'Neal's going to wear 22.
No, he's not.
And Jalen's wearing 9.
And I saw Gallup was going to switch into number 4.
Yeah,
we'll see what Dak does.
I think 8's available
for any.
We're joking.
I can't assume everybody listening to this is all over Twitter, so I don't want to confuse anybody.
All right, what's going on with the?
Let's divide this into 2 parts. Number 1, is this an actual thing? We know that the league is waiting to approve. It's waiting on approval, and it's something that's pending.
It is an actual thing. The Kansas City Chiefs have proposed a rule that would allow basically skill players to wear a much wider range of numbers. So, like, receivers can only wear 10 to 19 and 80 to 89 right now. This rule would allow them to wear 1 to 19 as well as 80 to 89. Running backs can wear single-digit numbers, linebackers as well. So basically everybody but offensive and defensive linemen, and I believe quarterbacks, can wear anything from like 1 to 59, more or less. So you're seeing a lot of guys talking about it. Obviously, that's a thing in college football. Mm-hmm. Jalen Smith famously wore 9 for Notre Dame. Part of the reason he chose 54 was because it adds up to 9. 9 is a big thing for him. Not sure why, but it's his number. You've seen guys around the league, Odell Beckham wore 3 in college. This would allow him to switch to 3 if he wanted to. It's not a big deal, but people love talking uniforms.
Yeah,
so, man, it has taken over.
How likely are the Cowboys, though, to accept? Because I would imagine the Cowboys have to accept a player's proposal to can I change to this number?
They don't have to accept it. There's been many people that want to wear number 12 and number 88 and number 22 and stuff like that, and 74. I mean, no one's ever worn 74 other than Bob Lilly.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you basically need the Cowboys' approval, whether they say that the Cowboys have to accept or not accept, right? So
before we get there, though, there are some things, and again, if they're going to change the rule, they could change multiple rules, but in the past, you had to put a request for 2 years.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to still do that.
I think that's what gets lost in all of this. And the rule hasn't even been approved. There's another competition owners meeting later. They already had one here in Dallas. There's another one later this spring. So they'll vote on that. Sometime in May, they'll vote and see if it even gets approved. But if it does, I think the intricacies of this kind of get lost because, if I don't know. If Cedric Wilson wants to change his jersey, is that a huge deal? Probably not. Like Jordan Lewis and Cheeto Awuzie have done it in recent years, and it's not a big deal. But Jalen Smith and Michael Gallup and Amari Cooper and Ezekiel Elliott. Zeke got in on it this morning. He said, "Yeah, I'd love to wear 15 again." That was his number at Ohio State. These are guys that sell tens of millions of units of merchandise, and I just feel like there's a little bit more to it than that.
There's two ways
rolling up to work on a Wednesday and saying I'm 15 now.
Yeah,
because that's a big monetary decision when you're talking about guys that have their jerseys in every sporting goods store in America. So if it passes, which I keep saying, like, it's not even a rule yet, but if it passes,
and it happened before that too. Like, you're talking about current players. I remember, Roy Williams wore 31, 5-time Pro Bowler, and then he switched to 38, and he did it because he kind of needed a change. Marcus Spears, same thing, 96 to 98. Maybe that's what Jalen Smith needs, but let's bring it back towards that.
Yeah, that's what he needs.
Let's bring it back towards that. And this is an interesting one because it deals with two players that I think are the most polarizing players of their time. That depending on the fan base, some of them love the guy, hate the guy, whatever. And there's not a lot of people that hate Romo. They just thought he
not anymore. They definitely did.
They did. Yeah, they did. So,
are we really about to have this conversation?
Well,
get ready, AG.
Seriously?
We're wading in.
This is the most ridiculous conversation right here. What you're about to say.
Take it away. Take it away, because you got more passion about it than I do.
No, to me, it's not even like it doesn't go even on the same sentence. The two guys don't even go on the same sentence. It's just not comparable at all whatsoever. So I would like to hear if you guys have a different opinion.
I do. I do a little bit, because I think the point you're missing here. I'm not comparing the players. It's not about Jalen Smith at this point. It's about Romo. It's about the number. You can't protect all these numbers. You can't. There are 4 numbers right now in the Ring of Honor that are multiple. The multiple players have it. So that means a Ring of Honor player left and another guy came in, and there's going to be 5 when DeMarcus Ware gets in because Haley's in. So 5 numbers are already duplicate. So Romo, you can't protect him. So you can't protect the number. He was a great player at his time, probably better than I think people gave him credit for. But at the end of the day, somebody's going to wear 9 again. Now.
Yeah, but who?
Okay.
Seriously?
Okay, but
that's the
okay. That's a good
I get
point.
your point. You can't protect the number forever.
Okay.
It's fine.
That's a good point.
Someone else can wear it, but who?
So what's worse? What's worse? Getting a young quarterback that they draft in the 2nd round, let's say this year, to maybe be a replacement. It ain't going to happen. But I'm just saying, a young budding quarterback at number 9. Give him number 9 or give a linebacker number 9? Because I guarantee you none of Romo's passing records are going to be broken by Jalen Smith. That's what I'm saying. Like, and I know this because they'll give 28 out, but they ain't going to give it to a young safety. They're not going to give 48 to a fullback.
You said that last night when we talked about this.
Don't tell me Jameel Showers.
I won't. I'll tell you Daryl Worley instead. They sent him out there to get abused wearing 28 all last year. Just saying. Watch
Really?
Daryl Worley chasing after Christian Kirk for 80 yards against Arizona. Like, oh my God.
Cornerback.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Played a lot of safety. I'm just saying, and that's kind of where I come down on it, is there was it feels so selective to me. And again, like, you can't protect all these numbers.
No.
And again, I said this, like, Jalen Smith is currently wearing the number of like 2 far greater Cowboys than Tony Romo.
Yeah.
I hope nobody gets mad about that. But
they are.
Chuck Howley won a Super Bowl MVP, like a 5-time All-Pro. Randy White, I mean, come on.
The Manster.
So
yeah.
And I think that and that's true. But how I see it is like, okay, how long ago was that though?
Sure.
It's
And
like
that-
the Romo thing it's so much recent.
that is the crux of it, is like Romo. He just retired, and he was the bright spot of this franchise for a solid 15 years, and especially for younger fans. Like, if you're my age and you grew up a Cowboy fan, like, Tony Romo's really the best thing that you've seen from this team so far in your life, and I think that's what prompts this emotional response to it, which I get.
It's weird. I think the 3 of us have three different takes on this because there's so many ways you can slice this thing, because it's not about one player versus another. Because I said this to you, Dave, earlier. I think that Larry Allen is the greatest offensive lineman, greatest guard in the history of the NFL. And I don't think you can say that about any other player that's ever played for the Dallas Cowboys other than Deion Sanders. That is the best at their position, hands down. Joe Looney rocked 73 for the last 4 or 5 years.
Mackenzie Bernardo had it too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's so selective to me. That's my thing. And for that matter, I get it if it's the same position. Don't give 22 to Zeke. But if Keanu Neal wanted to wear 22, me personally, that doesn't bother me. Mm-hmm. He's not playing running back. You only have so many numbers. Jalen Smith is wearing these great linebackers numbers. They've given 28. Felix Jones wore 28.
Okay.
A decade from now, if a receiver
Okay,
wanted to wear 82,
I was gonna say,
that's not going to bother me.
Carl, this is Jerry Jones, and I'm not doing a Jerry impression. I'm just saying this is
Kyle Pitts wearing 82.
Kyle Pitts. You're just been drafted by the Dallas Cowboys. Great. I can't wait, guys. I can't wait to get there. I can't wait to wear number 12 or 82.
Well, the rule would have to be passed first.
He can wear 12 as a tight end. As a tight end?
Are 11? We sure? Can tight ends wear
I thought
10
so.
to 19? I thought. Wait, all right. Sorry, we're doing research.
Anyways,
live on the air.
he wants to wear an 82 or a 12 or whatever. You're like, about that.
Nope. Tight ends can only wear 80 to 89 and 40 to 49.
That's right.
Yeah. But if the rule passed, he could. And no, that doesn't bother.
I'm segueing a lot here because we can get into some Kyle Pitts talk. That
it's so selective. Everybody wants the hotshot receiver to wear 88, and everybody Randy Gregory got 94. DeMarcus Ware got 94 after Haley.
It's a sweet spot. It's like, okay, it's like if you're not going to do it at all, here's a number, can't touch it, no one can have it. Here's a number, you can touch it, but you can't be anything close to the position.
Yeah.
Or here's a number, it could be the same position, but you better be a badass.
Yep.
88.
Yep.
94. And also, in a way, 54 was given to Jalen Smith for that reason. Everyone wants to see you and laugh about Bobby Carpenter.
What were their expectations? I mean, he was coming off an injury and all that, but I think
their expectation was he was going to be good.
That's what I'm saying.
Same with Bobby Carpenter. Mm-hmm. He was first round pick. He gets 54. He's going to be a good lineman. That always work out.
We gave it to Bruce Carter
Hambrick,
too.
54.
Hambrick were as a 5th round pick. Yeah, that was in 2000. Yeah, they weren't doing that. They weren't thinking that. There has been a running back to wear 33, but there probably won't be another one.
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's fine. But I didn't mind at all when Cheeto was wearing 33.
Yeah,
again, he plays quarterback. Who cares? If they gave it to a running back, I get it.
Yeah,
that's just me.
Everyone's got different opinions on this, and it's fun. It's healthy.
It's a fun debate.
Yeah, I don't like the whole I love Tony Romo, but I don't think that his number is one that nobody can have.
All right, let's go ahead and stop the nonsense. And before we go to break,
it's the off season, okay, Amber? Come on.
We got other stuff to talk about. This is nonsense.
All right.
Okay, let's stop the nonsense between Romo and Jalen Smith conversation here. But right before we go to break, are there any expected rules to pass that could be a little controversial too, or is there anything else?
That's the big one. I know, the Baltimore Ravens proposed an overtime rule that actually sounds really, really fun, where the team that wins the coin toss gets to pick where the ball is placed on the field. So you win the coin toss, you say, we're going to put it on the opposing 10-yard line. But then the other team gets to pick who plays offense and who plays defense. So a lot of strategy going into that. That could be really
interesting.
Yeah, it could be really interesting. But again, we won't know if it passes for a while. And so that's where I'm at with the uniform thing, where I'm like, can we save this conversation for when it's even a reality? Because it's not right now. So, but we'll see. I honestly don't know when those meetings are going to take place, but it should be sometime in May.
As long as they don't, when it comes back to jerseys, and I said this as well, college football, people wear all kinds of jerseys and it doesn't really bother me. The only thing that bothers me is when you see 4 number 1s or number 2s and all that kind of stuff, and they have to put a jersey on the sideline, because you can't wear the same jersey as someone else because he's playing special teams and there's another 18 and I'm wearing, I hate that kind of stuff.
I don't think
it'll get to that. There's not that many players,
There's
but
47 guys in uniform in the NFL on a game day. There's like 82 guys in uniform in college football.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
Yeah. Anyway. All right.
Anyway.
We're done. We're done.
All right.
Okay.
We're done with this segment. We're going to go to break. And when we come back, we'll switch the whole conversation into the draft and some of the things, more overall, of what's happened so far with free agency and the Cowboys.
Honey, big news.
Gary, are you okay?
Oh, I'm not Gary anymore. I'm Jackie Flash.
What?
See, I want the latest smartphone, but the best deals are only for new customers. So, to get a new customer deal, I changed my name to Jackie Flash.
Okay, but the best smartphone deals at AT&T are for everyone, new and existing customers.
That's huge. Then guess who's getting a deal?
Is it Jackie Flash?
Jackie Flash.
It's not complicated. At AT&T, our best smartphone deals are for everyone. Restrictions apply. Visit att.com for details.
Hi, I'm Clint Tillison with United Ag and Turf. Before you can park yourself in front of the game, park yourself in a John Deere and power through your chores. Our Land Run package is a 1025R, 25 horsepower tractor with a loader, rotary cutter, and a box blade for $229 a month. And the price you see is the price you'll pay, no surprises. So don't miss another kickoff.
Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com. Offer ends February 1st, 2021. Restrictions apply. See dealer for details.
Now let's get to work.
The Cowboys way, where 16 Hall of Famers and 5 championships shows us what success looks like. Where turkey is always the second best part of Thanksgiving Day. Where we are all defined by one single thing, the star. Where we as fans know it's our job to keep the tradition going. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys and to support the quest of living life the Cowboys way. Copyright 2020, Bank of America Corporation.
Since 1865, Stetson hats are American-made with pride right here in Texas. And Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Want to show your Texas and team pride too? You can. By purchasing your own Stetson, you can look just like how the flag guys do on field at every home game. Stetson hats, the official crown of all self-respecting Cowboys, and your favorite football team.
Get yours today at shop.dallascowboys.com or at stetson.com.
Back to the break.
Get ready for the Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders auditions, Dave. You can learn from the best at a one-day intensive audition prep class on April 24th at the Star in Frisco. You can master the Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders dance and kick technique. Ask former DCC for tips on the audition process through an open Q&A and more. Register now at DallasCowboysCheerleaders.com.
Welcome back to the break. All right.
Trim those down a little bit.
Now that we got all the nonsense talk out of the way in the first segment, in this segment, we are going to talk about some actually important things.
Some more nonsense.
Got some more nonsense. All right. Cowboys free agency. We've seen what they've done so far. And before we get to the draft talk and some of these guys, the prospects that may be linked to the Cowboys currently, I want to talk to you guys about just some of the holes that they've filled so far through free agency, and if some of those needs, we know we've talked about safety, linebacker, have some of those needs changed? I mean, not drastically, but a little bit of what you kind of go into the draft thinking.
I do think so. I think it's changed some, and not on the front end. Not when you're talking about Thursday night, even maybe Friday. But when you don't sign Jordan Lewis, then you go into this draft, and you don't just need to get a cornerback in the first round. You got to get multiple cornerbacks, and they might anyways, but you would be pigeonholed to get 2. You got to get one in the 4th or 5th round. You got to get another one. I think cornerback is one that they help themselves. They could go play a game with Diggs, Brown. Why are you looking like this?
They could.
They could. But
Have fun.
But they're. Let me finish.
Okay.
Before you had that who farted look.
I didn't say anything. I just made a face.
Sorry. Diggs, Brown. Who am I missing? Jordan Lewis.
Yeah.
Those 3, and then you're gonna draft one. But if you didn't sign Jordan Lewis, I mean, you might have to draft 2 in the first 3 or 4 rounds.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's good. Jordan Lewis signing him didn't help you. Didn't change the fact that you're probably going to get one in the first round or so. Yeah. But it did help from the standpoint of your numbers. And I think there's some other positions like that.
I mean, they covered their asses. That's what they do. But I don't think they did anything that changes what they need to accomplish in the draft. I don't think anything they did. They still need a cornerback, and they need to draft him in the top 100. Like, they need a guy who's good enough to potentially start right away. You know, they signed Ty and Secchi, but does that make anybody feel better about the swing tackle spot? Like, not me, not significantly anyway. You know, they added a bunch of depth on the defensive line, but those aren't guys that, you know, should you like if a guy's there, it's like, well, we got Brent Urban, we're good. We don't need this guy. You know, like, no, that's not a thing.
I know we've talked a lot about safety, and I know that's not necessarily a first round type of position there, but
DeMonte Kazee's guarantees are like minuscule compared to Clinton Dix's, and how'd that work out?
Yeah,
that's my point. Is like, yes, that could work out really well. And I wrote a column about this last week, which is, you know, they're buying scratch off cards. You know, you go to the gas station and spend $2.50 on or how much does a scratch off card cost? I don't even know. Or, you know,
$1.
I go to the gas station when the Powerball is crazy, and I'm like, give me $10 worth of numbers. Just, you know, maybe and I drive home and I'm like, hell yeah, man! Like this
buy my parents a house.
I'm like, this could be the one. Like, who's okay, my brother can have some. I'll get my parents a house. Like, you know,
quit your job.
Yeah, no. I absolutely wouldn't quit my job. My job would be even more fun if I was actually rich. But then you go home and like 5 seconds into the broadcast, you didn't win, and that's what the Cowboys experience has been like. They're like, hey, you know, this guy had 7 picks 2 years ago, and we're only paying him like $1.2 million. Like, we could strike it rich, and they absolutely could, but they haven't yet. It has not cashed in the way they want it to yet, and they've been doing it for 8 years. So maybe this is the year. But
7 interceptions in 3 the year before that, 10 in the last 2 years.
What happened last year?
His foot fell off, but
he tore his Achilles.
Yeah, but other than that, like,
and I'm not trying to bash DeMonte Kazee or any of the other guys that they've signed.
Zeke did.
Huh?
Zeke tried to bash him.
He did. Well, no, Zeke didn't try. Zeke ran him over.
What about the linebacker position? I mean, does that change your draft needs as far as having Keanu Neal, which would say the biggest signing, I would say?
Keanu Neal is probably my favorite signing that they've made, because I know what a good player he was, and he came back and had a nice season last year after 2 years of injuries. But it's a $5 million deal, and that's probably, like, the guarantees aren't $5 million. So again, and it's 1 year. Like, you're not; these are not guys that you're looking to build around. They're guys that you're saying, okay, this guy can start for us if we need him to, but we're trying to improve this in the draft. That's what they do. And so again, they've done some things that I like. Like, they've made some additions that I do like, but they haven't done anything where I'm like, oh, I was worried about that last month, but I'm not anymore. Like,
yeah,
if they try to go into this season, They need to draft a cornerback with one of their first 2 picks, because you think about what you got from Diggs. He was picked 51. You think about what you got from Cheeto. He was picked 60. Like, and so now you're thinking, if I want better than that, I probably need to draft a corner number 10.
I'm picking a corner at 10.
And I mean,
we can move into that next talk here,
as it stands right now, there are very few scenarios where I would go away from that.
I'm picking a cornerback at 10, and if some reason, if Surtain and I think J.C. Horn has now jumped himself into a legitimate number 10.
Absolutely.
And if it's 8-9 for some reason, it's 8-9, and those 2 are off the board, and you're sitting at 10. I mean, that means there's an outstanding offensive lineman there.
You'd like to think,
because the quarterbacks are going, right. 4 of them, maybe 5.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Tight end.
I was going to ask you guys that. I mean, we saw it happen last year with CeeDee Lamb, kind of how he fell into the Cowboys' lap. But Is there any player on the offensive side of the ball?
There we go.
I don't like the talk, but it could happen. Is there anyone, any name, Dave, that could pop up that you're like, okay, if this guy, even though it's not a position of need necessarily,
go for it,
but
Dave.
he's too good to pass.
Go for it. I mean, Dave loves the guy.
If you don't love the guy, what are you doing? His name is Kyle Pitts, and I'm sure I've been as excited about a draft prospect at some point in my career, but I'm struggling to remember it. And I get like it's terrifying.
Your eyes are like twinkles in your eyes. Flat.
He's got the longest wingspan of an offensive skill player in 25 years. He runs a 4.44 at 6'5", 250. Turn on the tape. You can in the SEC, which most people would agree is the deepest, most talented conference in college football. He's just going up there and posterizing guys, jumping over 2 and 3 DBs to pull in touchdown passes. He averaged 18 yards per catch as a tight end. Oh, you like J.C. Horn, Nick?
Oh no,
Is that
him?
No, that's not him. But he beat J.C. Horn in this game. He beat Tyson Campbell and Eric Stokes from Georgia, who were two of the best cornerbacks. That's J.C. Horn. Oh, that was
We're currently watching some highlights.
He beat J.C. Horn on a crossing route in this game. He didn't beat up on Patrick Surtain so much, but he did beat up on Alabama. The guy's just uncoverable. And I get it.
I can tell you, Ed Cahill, who used to be running this show back in the back. He's not running these highlights. He's a South Carolina guy. He's just getting abused.
I mean, but everybody that played this guy got abused.
Yeah, I'm glad we don't see any LSU or Arkansas highlight. What we got here?
He
A&M.
actually.
No, who is that?
That's A&M. He didn't play against LSU, which is probably a big part of the reason why Florida lost that game.
We know that there are certain guys that you like or we like or whatever, but the Cowboys aren't necessarily aligned with us most of the time.
Sure.
But is this a guy that could attract to the Cowboys as well?
Well, let's go out with what's being reported right now. It's on the. I mean, and why it's being reported is interesting too. But I think was it Chris Mortensen from ESPN
who, if you pay attention to these things,
he never really does. He never talks a lot about the Cowboys, other than he talks to Jerry.
That's if he's reporting on the Cowboys, it's because he had a conversation with Jerry Jones.
And it sounds like, and he told him that they're enamored or he's enamored by Kyle Pitts. And Jerry is a businessman here. He knows how to play the game. Yes, he is probably enamored by him. Why would you not be? But he also has to think, get these offensive guys, quarterbacks, linemen, tight ends, receivers off the board.
Yeah.
And there's no way that if he really thinks, I'm going to go get. Now, I think it's true. I think Jerry really does like him, but you don't just start talking to people. You just tell them how much you love Kyle Pitts.
If you wanted to draft Kyle Pitts, you probably wouldn't say that.
You wouldn't say that
if that was who you really wanted to wind up with. Which that's and people get so up in arms. Which I think it's so funny. Fans are like, all through the year, and I noticed that with mock drafts too. Everybody's like, draft the best player. Don't worry about the need. But then when the chips are down, it's like, what on earth are you talking about? We need cornerbacks.
Right.
And that's mock drafts crack me up too, because every draft analyst always says, like, just get the best player. And every mock draft, the little blurb, it's like, well, they need a cornerback, so that's who I drafted for him. It's like,
right. I thought
the logic doesn't line up at all.
It never lines up.
And that's, I think, the world of Blake Jarwin. I thought he was going to have a breakout year last year. I feel even more strongly about that, having watched Dalton Schultz do what he did. Dalton had a great season as well, but he's in a contract year. Jarwin's contract is structured so that you can get away from it if you need to. So these are not building block players, and this is a generational prospect.
I'm just going to say this.
What?
If they draft anyone on offense aside from the offensive line, I'm going to be pissed.
That's just the absolute wrong way to think about a draft.
No, I'm sorry. I wasn't pissed about CeeDee Lamb last year. It was like, okay. But this year, after the season we had last year, no.
Okay. They needed a defensive end in 98, and they drafted Greg Ellis over Randy Moss. These are the types of conversations. That's cool. They need. I know you can. From a talent perspective, I know there was more to the Randy Moss thing.
Yeah.
But I'm just telling you, don't come crying to me in 15 years when Kyle Pitts is the best player in New York Giants history. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
I don't think if he is a generational player, like you say, and like a lot of people say, he's not going to 10.
No, and that's really, it's kind of like the jersey thing. It's probably a moot point. I really don't think he'll be there. I really don't. And so, but if he is,
the guys you need to be pulling for,
not do it.
If you're a Cowboy fan, you need to be pulling for Devontae Smith, Mac Jones, and Trey Lance. Maybe Jamar Chase.
Yep.
You want those guys drafted because you want those quarterbacks, and then those guys. That's going to give the Cowboys. Now, this is what I think is interesting. If Horn and Surtain are gone, what happens? I'm almost more intrigued about what happens if Horn and Surtain are both there. Because I don't mean, which one do you take? I'm saying if enough players the Cowboys love are sitting at 10, Jerry will be on the phone.
Yeah.
They would love to trade down.
Or
if they
shoot,
could.
you might not want.
We've seen that happen.
It has. If they trade down, I heard this the other day, and I'm just throwing it out there. If the Cowboys trade down, do not be surprised if they pick twice in the first round. Because
trade down and then trade back up
with what they got.
That would be fun.
Exactly.
I would love that. Which I was going to say, you might want Trey Lance to fall to you. Because that's what facilitates a trade.
That's what gets it going. You're right about that.
New England might want a quarterback at 15. I don't know if it would be smart to trade with a division rival, but maybe Washington wants to come up. Chicago.
You want to hand Washington a quarterback?
I mean, it depends on the price.
I would jack the price up. Oh yeah, you have to.
I don't even know if I would do it then. I just
like if they want Fields
on the off chance that he becomes a star, do you really want to be the reason why your division rival found their quarterback? I don't think that's a good idea.
I don't think so either.
But Chicago's right behind him at 20. Maybe Chicago, their GM's about to get fired. Maybe he does something crazy to get a quarterback. So
have Andy Dalton. They don't need to trade up.
There's a million ways this thing could go, and it's fascinating to think about.
And if you try to keep up with all the mock drafts, they change by the day, you know, like they, you probably got a list of 7 or 8 guys that have kind of been linked to the Cowboys. And I don't even know if Pitts was on that list, but I mean, Jerry talked about it. But I saw one the other day, Daniel Jeremiah. He's pretty plugged in.
Kwity Paye.
Like,
yeah,
Michigan pass rusher.
Very, very athletic, like bendy, fast, explosive. Like, and we talked about this on the draft show yesterday. Spare me the taco stuff because they both played at Michigan, but like Kwity Paye is an absurdly more athletic player. But his college production maybe scares you. Like I think he had 4 sacks last year. Like he didn't, he wasn't this monstrous guy. You would be banking on his athleticism.
Yeah,
you would be banking on him developing as he went along. 10 seems a little bit
10's
rich.
Not the number for that.
But if they trade back,
right?
I look at it and I say, if Patrick Surtain's there, I think he's your pick. Honestly, I think that's their dream scenario. J.C. Horn, if that's possible, then you're probably talking about an offensive tackle or a trade. And if you can't do that, I wouldn't be surprised if they drafted Micah Parsons either.
Let's go back to. I love that actually. By the way,
I know you love Parsons.
I know, and I don't know where he fits on the board and where they'd have to fall to get him or whatever, but. I think he's everything you want Jalen Smith to be.
That's actually I did an interview that's coming out today with Bobby Carpenter, which again, spare me the snark, NFL player, great college guy who is plugged into the Big Ten. He said he was like, if you want a comparison for Micah Parsons, it's pre-injury Jalen Smith, like the guy that people were hoping he would be.
Really, that's interesting.
So,
going back to J.C. Horn, we showed some highlights of him, and you said. He went up against Kyle Pitts. And as impressive as it was for Pitts to beat the cornerback and all that, which I think he's a bulky wide receiver, but I love that's what I love about J.C. Horn is I got him. I got Pitts. Now, maybe he didn't get him all the time. Maybe he got beat. I bet he won some too. But that's what I love about him, not knocking Surtain, but obviously there's 5-star guys all over the line for Alabama. There's not that many for South Carolina,
right?
As we saw as Pitts just tore him up, the whole team. But he's more of a dog to me. And he is a guy We got some J.C. Horn. Okay. I mean, I think he takes their best guy every time.
He does.
He doesn't have a lot of other guys, like on defense around him. He's tough. If you love the fact that Surtan's dad played 15 years in the league, J.C. Horn's dad, Joe Horn, played 10 to 12 years. Pretty good Saint wide receiver. So I really love his game, and I think I might pick him over him.
Kyle Pitts said Horn was the guy, like he hated going up against him the most. That was his toughest assignment this year. And I love Horn because he strikes me. I feel like Horn would come in here as a rookie, and at mini camp,
yes,
he would bat down a pass from Dak Prescott and tell Dak that he's trash. Like he's that type of guy. He's got some like Richard Sherman.
Or maybe not be so good at training camp. Because we get deceived of what happens.
You are
there.
like you're so superstitious. You're like, well, wait, I don't want him to be good. That means he's going to let me down.
Just be all right.
Just suck through training camp and be great during the season.
Yes.
You're so afraid to be hurt, and I love it.
But we see it all the freaking time. These players shine during training camp and then they suck during the season.
Guys who shine during training camp shine during the season too. Like
okay,
I spent
what do you want him to do, like Reggie Robinson, and not show up at all at training camp and then just don't play?
Just
poor Auburn.
Keep that Mike McCarthy mentality of keeping things secret and then show up.
I've never seen. Supposedly. I know. I mean, cornerbacks are important. I watched that Auburn Carolina game, and I've never seen a cornerback have such a ridiculous impact on the outcome of a game. Like he just terrorized Bo Nix all afternoon in this game, which Bo Nix isn't a very good quarterback. So there's that.
I'd like to mix it up a little bit. I mean, I know that's the highlight package. Sorry, Chris. I'm just saying I like to mix it up. Well, here's another thing about highlights too, and I've learned this over the you go to YouTube highlights or somebody's
you only see the good
huddle in high school.
Oh yeah,
give me the one where he's just getting beat. Give me where he gets pancaked or run over or something like that.
Watching tape is so much, especially if you're ever fortunate enough to watch like a cut up. Cut-ups are hilarious because like they'll group all of the good plays and you're like, this guy's going to the Hall of Fame, let's go. And then you get to the bad plays and you're like, oh, it's organized in a certain way. I get it now. So that's always fun.
Well, let's go ahead and take our...
This is all the Auburn game. This is unbelievable. Like, you're right.
He played the game of his life.
Absolutely
killed him.
Dominated. I keep waiting for another highlight, but I keep seeing the same game, but different highlight. Like, yeah. Was he SEC Player of the Week?
I hope so. I don't know off the top of my head.
Don't fall in love with a player so you don't get your heart broken when something happens in the draft and he does not end up here.
Oh, I've learned a long time ago. You can't worry about the draft. They're gonna pick it. That's why I'm not into what Dave does and Broadus did and Kyle and those guys because I just can't. I just can't do it. I just can't invest in 400 guys with knowing that only 20 are going to be here.
Oh,
and I get it that in 3 or 4 years they'll be free agents and you learn them and all that. But I just can't.
See, I love it. Maybe I'm a hipster, but I knew Kareem Hunt was going to be a beast for the Chiefs before he ever played, and he had 150 yards in his first game. It just helps the league so much better. You're like, oh yeah, I remember Kenny Galladay. He was great coming out of school. He was just it just helps you know the league so much more.
Found another game, huh?
Oh, LSU. Oh,
yeah.
we
but
won.
Here comes the score in a second, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. There you go.
I would be tempted to draft J.C. Horn over Patrick Surtain, and I like Patrick Surtain, but he is a hell of a player.
He's physical. That's what I like about him. Yeah. I mean, and I know Surtain would be good. I just think you have to take a cornerback at 10. You have to.
No, you should never. No, I disagree with that completely. That's my point. Is I think so much of Kyle Pitts that if for some reason he was there. And then that's why you do your homework, and that's why you say, okay, we like Eric Stokes, we like Elijah Molden out of Washington. Going back to your point, they have enough capital that they could maybe trade up for a guy if he fell a little bit.
Yeah.
Greg Newsome out of Northwestern. You should never do anything because you have to.
It's hard to have that kind of mentality this year after the kind of season they had last year. Yeah. And I get it.
That's why you gotta peel back and remove your emotion from it.
Okay, well, if you told me, we didn't spend all our money on the quarterback and we had a bunch of money to spend on the other free agent veteran guys that can actually come in here and be very impactful, but that didn't really happen. So you're great. Okay.
Sorry.
You just love it, Dave. You hate it, but you love it.
I'm running to the podium to draft Kyle Pitts if I can, and I'll worry about everything else later.
Okay, well, let's take our final break. And when we come back, I do want to talk about some of the possibilities of trading down that you guys talked about and see if that could actually happen and how or what that would look like for the Cowboys.
Since 1865, Stetson hats are American-made with pride right here in Texas. And Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Want to show your Texas and team pride too? You can. By purchasing your own Stetson, you can look just like how the flag guys do on field at every home game. Stetson hats, the official crown of all self-respecting Cowboys, and your favorite football team.
Get yours today at shop.dallascowboys.com or at stetson.com.
Honey, big news.
Gary, are you okay?
Oh, I'm not Gary anymore. I'm Jackie Flash.
What?
See, I want the latest smartphone, but the best deals are only for new customers. So, to get a new customer deal, I changed my name to Jackie Flash.
Okay, but the best smartphone deals at AT&T are for everyone, new and existing customers.
That's huge. Then guess who's getting a deal?
Is it Jackie Flash?
Jackie Flash.
It's not complicated. At AT&T, our best smartphone deals are for everyone. Restrictions apply. Visit att.com for details.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
We're back with a tasty treat that's sweeping airwaves and taste buds. It's new Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda. Let's take a listen.
Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda's here. A new combo that's music to my ears, okay. Let's play. Cream Soda and Dr. Pepper time. Pour it in a glass of ice.
Ah, music to my ears and mouth. New Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda.
A delicious duet.
Back to the break.
Cowboy fans, show your football pride at the Pro Shop, the official store of Cowboys Nation. Score classics like your favorite player jerseys in their current number, tees and hats, plus exclusive collections and unique accessories with options from Nike, New Era, and many other brands. The Pro Shop has more Cowboy gear than anyone else in the game. Visit your Dallas Cowboys Pro Shop or shop online at shopdallascowboys.com.
Jeez.
Cut these down a little
You need
bit.
to start working out or something if that
I
gets you
guess.
out of breath. God.
Damn. All right, then.
I'm just
All right. Maybe I added a little too much to it, too. So.
Well,
All right.
thank you. Thank you for that. But, okay, last segment, and you guys kind of hinted at the whole possibility of trading down. Nick, you mentioned trading down and then trading back up. But if the Cowboys were to trade down, how would that look like? I mean, as far as, and I know it's hard to predict who's going to be there and all that, but just looking at it right now, would you guys like that if the Cowboys were to trade back?
In the right circumstance for the right price, I would love it. Like, depending on what is available to them. Yeah. And it is really hard to predict because everybody loves to say that. And we always say, like, you got to have a trade partner. You got to have a player worth trading up for. That's almost always a quarterback. Not always, but almost always. So Trey Lance, Mac Young, if one of them were to fall to you at 10, or if a Jamar Chase or a Kyle Pitts, just this guy that somebody is completely obsessed with, you could maybe make that work. But you need that because we've seen what a trade looks like when you don't really have a partner, and that's the Travis Frederick trade, which it worked out because Travis was great, but they still kind of got fleeced on the deal. Like Sharif Floyd was there for him. I think it was 17. Or 18.
18.
They're picking 18, and they bailed because they didn't want to draft Sharif Floyd, which turned out to be a good call. But they only got a third-round pick for moving 13 spots in the first round of the draft. Like, that's not good. No. And it's probably not a coincidence that they shook up the way that they do the draft after that happened.
Yeah.
So you don't want to do that. I'm not bailing out of 10 just because I'm terrified of picking somebody. But if somebody's going to really sweeten the pot, I talked about this in the mailbag earlier this week. Like, if Chicago wanted to offer me their next year's one to jump 10 spots, I would do that all day. And
10 to 20, you go down to 20 in this year's draft.
Yeah.
And then you got number
and I got
one
next year's one. Hopefully I could maybe even get a day 2 pick out of it as well. Like next year's 1 and this year's 3 to fall back 10 spots and let them get their quarterback. I would do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, especially if it's for a quarterback.
And you need something that you are capable of driving the price up.
I say that too, having next year's number 1, because if most teams are not going to sit on their quarterback, they're going to play him.
Yeah.
And so you want to trade with the team. If you have their next year's number 1, you want them to play a rookie quarterback and hope that he struggles and you get a better pick out of it.
So I would do that. Like I said, I'm not doing it for the sake of it, but in the right circumstance, like I said, New England at 15 makes sense. I don't know if you would want to trade with Washington, Chicago. Those are probably the big ones.
In that scenario about trading for next year's one, you're not trading back into the first round.
Probably not.
The scenario that trades into the first round is like 10 to like 17 or something like that, and then you get their number 2, and maybe something else out of it. 10 to 17, you probably get a 2 and maybe a 4, and you
could package that pick
some of that
with pick 44 maybe. And we see that happen all the time. Somewhere between pick 27 and pick 32, somebody in the second round loves to jump up and get whoever it is that they covet. Again, a lot of times it's a quarterback, like if a Lamar Jackson falls to the end of the first round or something like that.
And I know a lot of fans know this, but it's worth pointing out just the difference in getting a first-round pick with that fifth year.
You have the ability to keep them for 5 seasons instead of just 4.
The difference between the 32nd pick and the 33rd pick is tremendous.
And that's, it gets a little convoluted, but that, so the Cowboys have 4 picks in the top 100 right now. And I tend, top 100 draft picks, maybe not necessarily starters, but if you're drafted in the top 100, you should be good enough to contribute as a rookie significantly. So they have 4 right now. Would you rather have 4 players in the top 100, 4 guys who can come in and contribute, or use some of that capital to draft 2 guys in the first round? So now instead of 4 top 100, maybe you have 2 top 30, and those guys should be stars. And that's always an interesting debate.
That is.
A different scenario, which isn't necessarily trading picks for picks, but it's the whole Michael Gallup conversation, which people have been having during this offseason, kind of hinting, is he a good guy that would be good for a trade? And we know his contract is about to end. He's probably going to require and ask for more money than what the Cowboys could possibly pay him. And looking at the fact that you still have Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, sorry, pregnancy brain. CeeDee Lamb. Where do you guys currently stand with that whole conversation? Is it still really a conversation, or is that something that kind of like, that's not really going to happen?
Did I draft Pitts?
There's a segment, there is a segment of people that are so obsessed with best player available that they'll say, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, or Devontae Smith has a chance to be the best player available when you pick.
Yeah.
Those guys are studs. And if you were really about that business, you could draft one of those guys and either just let it roll or try to do something with Michael Gallup after the fact.
Gallup.
I wouldn't do anything with Gallup unless that happened. Like, if you wind up with Kyle Pitts or a wide receiver, maybe you could make that happen. I always say, it just people are always trying to solve problems before they arise. And I know we've talked about this before, but Amari Cooper's deal is structured to where they can get out of it this time next year without really any consequences. Like, the vast majority of his guarantees are front loaded and they'll be done. So you could trade Amari next year for cheap. You could cut him if you wanted to. I don't know why you would. He's great. I think he'll be great, but you could. So, you could find a way to pay Michael if you would prefer to keep him around. Or, if he leaves, based on what he's done, I would think any deal that he would sign in free agency would net you a 4th or maybe even a 3rd round pick, depending. So you could go that way. So I don't think it's necessary.
What would you get for him if you traded him right now?
That's a great question.
On draft day.
On draft day, Before you draft a receiver or after? Because I think, if you draft Jalen Waddle and then you try to move Michael Gallup, I think people would be like, well, I'm not going to pay a premium for that. You got more receivers than you know what to do with.
I think there'd have to be some kind of agreement going on here.
Something like that. I would like to think you could get it.
I really want to do that.
Statistically, I believe Gallup is one of, if not the best receiver from a production standpoint from his draft class. One of.
Yeah.
I'm
keeping him.
I'd like to think you could get a third for him, but it's hard to predict that type of stuff. I would rather keep him unless you wind up with one of these guys on your team, and then or it's Will's job to have his eye on he's the executive vice president of player personnel. A big part of his job is knowing other teams' rosters, and so maybe you could trade Michael for a similar defensive tackle. I know, like Dalvin Tomlinson just signed a new contract, but a guy like that, like a talented defensive tackle who needs a new contract, who's an obvious upgrade over what you have here.
Look at guys in contract years, both on other teams and on this team. Gallup's a contract year. Connor Williams is in a contract year. Dalton Schultz. Those are the guys that are easiest to trade because they don't have a lot of money. The cap hit wouldn't be that much at all for the team that was taking them or letting them go. So,
it's easy for me to say, oh, that stuff never happens. But they did trade Ryan Switzer for Jihad Ward on draft day a few years ago. They got Tavon in a draft trade, so it does happen.
It does happen, but
I lean toward thinking it's more unlikely than not.
Is it unlikely for any other players, like you mentioned, Connor Williams? There's also, Dalton Schultz, but
Dalton Schultz could be an interesting piece of trade bait for
any of those guys could be interesting. But is it something realistic that the Cowboys that you could see the Cowboys actually doing with any of these guys?
Realistic, yes. Likely, no. That's kind of my answer across the board.
It happens. Those would be because those players. If you're saying that Gallup would probably give you a third, then if you were to trade Dalton Schultz on draft day or Connor Williams, we're talking about day 3 pick here, right?
Probably
5th
or a player of a comparable skill level.
At that point, you only do those things if something happened in the draft that changed. Get a guard in the second round.
I'm only trying to move Gallup. Yeah, I'm only trying to move Gallup if I draft Pitts or Waddle. I would only be interested in moving a guy like Connor Williams if I wound up with Rashawn Slater. These aren't things that I'm seeking to do. Right. These are things that
because
I might, my draft class might change how I feel.
As great as the future is, this team showed you in free agency that a lot of 1-year deals. They're trying to win now as well. Yeah. Hoping that these guys stick and maybe keep them down the road, but that they are trying to win right now and for this year as well.
Yeah. And that going back to the first segment, they covered themselves as well as they are willing to do, but it doesn't and shouldn't change their philosophy in the draft for basically any position.
And I know we talk about a lot about all the needs that they currently have on defense, and mostly that would be hopefully addressed through the draft. But aside from the first round, second round, those later draft picks, are there still good talent there at defense? What would be the best kind of position that the Cowboys could be looking at in later rounds?
Let me just throw this part in, and I don't know if I've said this before. I'm not interested in doing a lot of trade-ups unless you've already traded down a lot. I think this team has 10 draft picks, and I think they need 10 players at least. They need to throw 10 things up on the wall and hope 6 or 7 of them stick. You need that 6th-round pick. He might be Rico Gathers that might not play for you. He might be Anthony Brown, who you re-signed and as a quality player. You need those guys. This team needs so much help and so much depth that I'm using those. So to answer your question about position, there's Hall of Famers at every position in the 6th and 7th round at some point in there. Do you hit on one? Who knows? I think you could.
I think it just depends. You can talk trash about them all you want, but they traded up for Xavier Woods because they felt strongly about him. And, for a guy, he was drafted late sixth round, and they got 4 years of starts out of him. Like, that's a win. Yeah. That's a good pick.
It was a good pick.
Even though last season was bad for him, and I don't think very many people were sad to see him go, that's a good draft pick. They traded up for Tyler Biadasz last year as well. So it just depends who's sitting there. I always tell people, this is just my opinion, but like I said, the top 100 is where I stop really thinking that this guy's going to contribute. And again, he could grow into a Hall of Famer. He could be an Anthony Brown or an Xavier Woods, but Bradley Anae is the perfect example. He falls to the fifth. He's Senior Bowl MVP, this great player, and he still could be. But everybody's like, oh my God, we got Bradley Anae, and he played 6 defensive snaps.
Can I tell you something?
Sure.
Let me tell you something.
Okay.
For the last year and a half, every time you say top 100, I'm not trying to be rude about it. I always think of Chaz Green.
It's an inexact science.
I know it's just one example, but it's like every time you say 100, I think of Chaz Green because he snuck in there at like 98 or whatever. I know.
Michael Gallup was pick 81.
I get it. And Dak was whatever.
Dak was pick 135.
Thought it was going to work out with everyone.
You're going to just throw out every number like that?
I'm just saying.
It's pretty awesome.
I always say should. If you do your job the right way and draft the right player, a top 100 pick should be able to contribute. It's not an exact science.
When you say it, I can't get that out of my head. Like
That's
I
fair.
just think maybe I'm always like being like contrary, like Chaz Green.
That's fair, but people. I think the draft changes on day 3. That's when you're basically just cashing in lottery tickets and hoping for the best.
Adding bodies.
Yeah, and adding guys that can compete, maybe grab a roster spot, and you hope for the best. And that's why, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, okay, in the first 3 rounds, they need to find a cornerback. They need to find some offensive line depth. They probably need a linebacker who could potentially start right away. But then by day 3, I'm like, shoot. Draft a quarterback if the right guy's there. If a running back that just absolutely shouldn't still be there in the 5th round is there, draft him. Mm-hmm. Draft a defensive. I don't care. And they have 6 picks on day 3. Do whatever the hell you want with them, honestly, because you're just hoping for the best at that point anyway.
All right. Well, they are going to do whatever they want.
They are.
Well, they always do. They always do, don't
Not
they?
just on day 3. They're going to do whatever they want.
Depends on who they is.
True.
All right, well, that's it for today. We ran out of time, and Derek never showed up, but that's okay. You guys did a great job. I think you two had a pretty good conversation here today.
We went into the weeds with the jerseys, but we pulled it back. We got back on the road.
No, it was great. Great conversation.
We talked about that last night. It was
seriously. Nick called me to it was like it was supposed to be like a 90-second work conversation, and we wound up ranting to each other about jersey numbers for like a half hour.
It's funny because you guys say it's kind of stupid. It's not even done yet, but yet you're still kind of passionate about it.
Nothing.
Fans love it.
I mean,
tell them that story about LSU, the patch. That's funny to me.
The most clicked on story that I ever wrote in college when I was a student journalist was just some BS that I threw together. Like LSU decided that they were going to stitch the letters LSU onto the collar of the jersey. Like the most stupid, minuscule change ever.
That was your best story.
It blew up. It got like so many clicks. People were arguing in the comments about it for like weeks. It was, and the other one, the other most clicked on story I ever wrote was just a throwaway blog post that Terrell Pryor was going to visit. He was going to go on a visit to LSU. He was like the #1 prospect in the country at the time. And just the thought that he would even visit campus, but then, the story that I spend like 4 months reporting on, nobody reads it.
Next week or whatever, and I'm not saying this has happened, I'm just throwing out a free agent. We'd have 2 headlines in a row. Cowboys signed veteran linebacker KJ Wright. Cowboys changed pants to a lighter shade of green. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, that would be the only thing people care.
I can't talk trash because I've been I say I don't care, and I've had like 5 different arguments about the jersey numbers in the last 24 hours.
If LSU ever changed their goalpost back to a regular goalpost, you'd freak out. It wouldn't change anything about the game.
I would be so mad.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. For Nick Eatman, David Hellman, and Mary Garcia on Cowboys Break on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?